Hey guys, welcome to the Heal Project. This is episode 3, and I'd like to start off this episode with a bit of an apology. When I first started doing these videos several months ago, it was something that was driving. It was something that I had passion about. It made me feel like I was doing something that mattered, and I don't know, it felt right. And then I had a couple things that kind of challenged that thought and made me feel like what I was doing wasn't really that important. And then I just kind of shut down. And I do this sometimes. I like hide away, I shut down. I don't know why I do these things. It frustrates me sometimes because I do it. But whatever's happened, that's in the past, and today's a new day. So now I'm back on these videos. And what stirred me to kind of get my gears rolling again was a Facebook post by a friend of mine. So many of these videos are inspired by Facebook posts, but a friend of mine had a post that she said she was just looking for prayer. She was just kind of lost. She wasn't trying to stir up drama. She just was wanting some help. And then a few days later, she had a status that said she was an addict, and she had been an addict for 20 years. And she had checked herself into a rehab facility. She had struggled with some prescription pain medications. And then once she got out of rehab, then everything kind of fell apart, and she was even on the streets for a bit. And my heart went out to her, and there's things that you wish you could do, but being on the other side of the planet, it makes it difficult. So knowing that there's something I can do, that I with these videos, I feel like that's my way of trying to help people and encourage them. So that's why I started back with these videos again. So it was funny, I just saw a verse the other day. It was in the book of Romans, chapter 12, verse 8, and it says, if your gift is to encourage others, be encouraging. So that's why I'm starting to do these videos again. So today we're going to talk about a very interesting subject, and this friend of mine, it was a perfect example of the reason we're going to talk about this, but we're going to discuss addiction today. And addiction is a very strange and unusual situation. It's something that seems to provide comfort. It has this promise of it's going to make things better, but in reality, it just ends in pain. It's a temporary. You get this temporary. It feels good just for a moment, but it never really fulfills you. Though you become controlled by it. It's something that just consumes you. And I think Mel Gibson in an interview described it perfectly. He said it's like this thing that you eat, but the more you eat, the emptier you feel. And then because you're still hungry, you just keep eating more and more and more, but you just feel more and more empty. And that pretty much hits it right on the head. It's this thing that just constantly consumes, but it never satisfies. And it always draws you back in. It never gives you that feeling of, yeah, I'm glad I did that. It just has this way of constantly being it's like a crutch almost. Unfortunately, a lot of times people, that's the only thing they know, and that's why they keep running back to it. And it's also frustrating because a lot of times when someone's struggling with addiction, they're looked down upon as one of those people with, that struggle with addiction. When in reality, we all struggle with addiction. Some of our addictions are just more socially acceptable than some of the others. So yeah, you may not be addicted to meth or cocaine or alcohol or whatever, and you think your addiction, this is a mild addiction that doesn't hurt anybody. You're probably wrong with that. Just looking at a few things, look at pornography for example, or some other sexual addiction. It seems like it's this harmless thing, but it's an addiction. It's one of those things where you can never look at enough pornography. You're never going to be like, whew, I watched the best porno ever. I'm good for the rest of my life. It's one of those things that constantly draws you in, and what satisfied you before doesn't satisfy you anymore. So you get, you pursue things deeper and deeper. And not only that, but the dysfunctional view of a sexual relationship that's, set forth by the movies and things, it can destroy your current relationship and your future relationships. So it's not as harmless as people think. Another really big addiction that is, it's huge in society is gossip. You look at the the trash magazines, the TMZ and these various things like that. And people are so consumed with other people's lives rather than their own. And people, it's just a little gossip, it's just a magazine, that people really push gossip as something that's just not really that important. In the Bible, though, it says that in Proverbs that gossip is a choice morsel and it goes down into one's inmost parts. It's another one of those things. It's like a craving. And the problem with gossip is it's almost like this false sense of power, because someone has a secret about someone. It's like this thing that no one else knows, and it gives you this false sense of power. And in reality, gossip is probably one of the most destructive forces on the planet. You look at those magazines, for example, the People and Us Weekly and all that stuff, and look at the celebrities and the people that are in those magazines. Look at the quality of their lives. They're constantly under a microscope. And then you look at the it girl of the moment, like Britney Spears and Lindsay Lohan and Miley Cyrus, and these girls that are constantly under the microscope, and then they lose their mind. It's like, oh, well, you see Britney Spears shaves her head and goes just hitting somebody's car with an umbrella. People buy these magazines, which drives that industry, which drives these girls crazy. And then once they go crazy, then the people that buy the magazines look at them and are like, geez, she's crazy. Yeah, Britney Spears went crazy, and because she's famous and she went crazy, I feel pretty damn good about myself. When you're the person that caused this in the first place. If there wasn't money to be made, there wouldn't be paparazzi chasing these people around, and they never get a moment of peace. So I loathe gossip. Whether it's true or not is irrelevant. My mom used to say, just go sweeping your own porch before you go sweeping off the neighbors. We all have other issues to deal with, so we don't like people talking about our stuff. And I've seen it many times in my own life. And people talking, you just try to keep your head held high and deal with it. And unfortunately, a lot of these times it's friends and family that are saying that. It's these people that are close to you, and they say some really hurtful things. And I'm not here to tell you it's easy. I mean, it is tough, Jack. It is tough stuff sometimes. But, you just don't get caught up in gossip. Don't deceive yourself and think that just because you read People and OK or Us Weekly or whatever, watch TMZ, that you're just blameless in all this. Buying that stuff fuels the destruction of people's lives. So it's something to take seriously, but that unfortunately we often take as, it's no big deal. One more just general addiction that people don't consider that bad of an addiction is an addiction to food. You see it in most of the westernized cultures especially. And I mean, I love food too, but food, it's so often it's more of, it's an emotional thing. It's not like nutrition based. It's this deep emotional need that people, or some kind of emotional issue that drives it. Especially like things like sugar. Sugar has been shown to have the same chemical reaction, very similar chemical reaction in the brain as cocaine does. So it's a very addictive thing. And the other problem is it's a very visible thing. If you have somebody that struggles with being overweight, they don't want to be overweight, but it's this emotional need that they're trying to fulfill with the food. And even if somebody starts making good progress and they start, getting a healthier lifestyle, all it takes is this emotional trigger to get set off. And then next thing you know, they've eaten a bag of chips, half a cake, and they've got their, spoon in the tub of ice cream. And then they feel deflated and guilt and shame. And it's just this cycle. It's all about that emotional longing, and it's all emotional triggers. So it's just like any other addiction cycle. It's one of those things where you're trying to meet this need, this emotional need, through some type of vehicle, but it's actually destructive. And that's why, I do these videos. To me, addictions are an effect. The root cause of it is somebody's need emotionally is not being met. They feel unloved. They feel hopeless. They feel, insignificant. And, you can try to fill that need with food, with sex, with drugs, with booze, with, fame, and, all these various things. You can try and fill that need, but it doesn't fulfill you. And I believe that hope, encouragement, and love will go much farther at helping someone with an addiction rather than, shaming someone because of their addiction and rubbing their nose in their addiction like they're a puppy that peed on the carpet. So, I want to encourage you with this. And my point with even mentioning these other addictions is that, don't judge anybody based on, they may struggle with an addiction, but more than likely you have an addiction of your own that you struggle with. And if you're truly being honest and look at your addictions, you can look at the pain that you've been caused or you've caused others with it. If you don't have any of those situations, then God bless you because you're blessed. But most families are dysfunctional anyway. I don't know what it's something about the family dynamics. It tends to just harness the potential for dysfunction. So you can think of any pain that someone else. If you don't have any examples, look at someone else who has an addiction and how their addiction has affected you. So one thing I want to share with you out there, if you're struggling with addictions especially, I'd like to share something from my own life that hopefully can give you some strength or encouragement to, break free of the addiction cycle if you're fighting your own demons with that. So, first of all, a little background information. I was raised in a very, pretty dysfunctional environment growing up. Sex, drugs, rock and roll. I thought all that stuff was really actually normal until one day in second grade, we watched this video on drug abuse. And at the end of the video, the teacher asked if any of our family or our parents did drugs. And I'm looking around the room and nobody's raising their hand. And in that moment, I realized what I thought was normal, what I grew up with, wasn't normal. And then it made me feel like I had this secret that I had to hold on to. And I grew up in a lot of fear because of it, because I was always scared that someone would find out my secret and not so much judge me based on that, but I didn't want the police to find out. I didn't want to lose my family or be taken away from my family. So it was this secret I held on to for many, many, many years. And growing up in that environment, you're around all that stuff, but it wasn't until I was 15 years old and some friends of mine had bought some marijuana, and peer pressure is like, oh, come on, let's smoke a joint. So sure enough, we smoked a joint, and it was a weird feeling. Growing up in a drug and alcohol filled environment, pot was like the go-to drug. It was like a foundational thing that everybody did. And I always thought it was going to be like this amazing thing. And I was expecting it to be like this experience that, oh man, it's the most awesome thing ever. And in reality, I didn't like it. It made me feel like I wasn't in control of myself. And I didn't like that feeling of not being in control of my life. So I just really wasn't into it, and it wasn't my thing. So I just put it aside. That was until May of 1995. I was approaching high school graduation. There was a young lady that I was always kind of, had a thing for. And one night at a party, things lined up. She wasn't seeing anyone. I wasn't seeing anyone. And it kind of went from there. And it was amazing. I thought she was the one, you have the one, the only person that out of 6-7 billion people on the planet that God made just for you. And, you get in that love stupid phase. And we were in that phase for about a week. I was thinking this was this was it. And after a week, we had a conversation, and this young lady told me she had promised her ex-boyfriend another chance. And that pretty much gutted me. That destroyed me. I was like pissed. I was hurt. I was just like, I saw us together for 50 years, and then just to see something stupid, make the relationship just disappear, I didn't handle that well. And so that next day was Monday of graduation week, and I threw down partying like nobody's business. I drank a fifth of Wild Turkey whiskey that night. Was just blitzed out of my mind. The next night, some of my friends were wanting to know if I wanted to go in and buy a bag of weed with them. And that sounded like a good plan because I hated the taste of whiskey. I didn't like hangovers. And, marijuana would act faster and get me high. So I started then smoking weed that night. By Friday of that same week, just 5 days later, that night I ended up passed out in some abandoned building after smoking opium. So it's a very slippery slope, and that's what started me on a path of destruction. Partying hard, the booze, drugs, girls, all that stuff. It was just this partying lifestyle. And it was complicated because I was a opening manager at McDonald's, so I had to be at work at 4:30 in the morning. And if I didn't sleep that night before, which was often the case, I could make it into work without any problems. But many times I would have like an hour or maybe 2 hours of sleep, and then I was running late for work. I can't tell you how many times I nodded off driving to work, and those little when you start running off the road. I mean, it was just that constant doing that all the way to work. It's a wonder I never died. It was crazy times. And this went on for a while. And one night, one simple comment changed everything. I was out with some of my friends. We were driving around, and my friend Bill made this comment. I don't remember what we were talking about or how we even got on the subject, but Bill was laughing and he called me a pothead. And that ticked me off. I was like, I didn't consider myself, I like to party and stuff like that, but I didn't consider myself to be a pothead. And so I was actually very angry with Bill for this. But then once I got home that night, I was still reeling. I was still pretty ticked at that comment. And I remember going into the bathroom and I looked at myself in the mirror. And an interesting thing happened. I didn't recognize the person I was seeing. And by that I meant the person I saw. It was like I saw myself for what I was really looking like. And who I saw in the mirror wasn't the person I thought I was. It wasn't the person I thought I projected. And it was kind of a realization that, yes, I am. I'm becoming a stoner. I'm becoming a pothead. And as I sat there looking in the mirror, I heard a voice. And to me, I believe it was the voice of God. But the voice said, "You know where this path leads." That was it. You know where this path leads. And it was probably the most profound statement that could have ever been said, because I did know where that path led. I've lived that path my entire life. And it was just a dysfunctional path that I was on. And if I continued down that path, I would just repeat the same things that most of my family had done. It's an exciting path. Yeah, I mean, it's got some exciting times, man. Lots of parties, and when you start seeing your mom getting beat up, and you sleep in a ditch and that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's real exciting, but man, it's a lot of pain that comes with it. A lot of struggle, a lot of just really bad times. And as I was sitting there, I don't know how long the moment was, but it was just like I was reflecting on all this, and I realized I was at a crossroads. I could choose to continue on this path, or I could choose to create a new path. It wasn't like I don't think God said, "Get off this path" or "Stop doing what you're doing." He's like, "You know where this path leads." It was just like this self-reflection of, if I continue this, that's what's going to be my future. And so then I was thinking, well, maybe I should start something new, something that would lead to fulfillment, something that would provide some peace for once in my life. And that's what happened. In that moment, I made a decision that changed the course of my life. I laid the drugs down, got clean. It was very easy. I didn't need to repeat the same mistakes that I had seen. I didn't, need to continue the cycle. So if you're watching this video and this speaks to you in any way, I'm here to tell you the same thing that I believe God spoke to me, and it's, where that path leads. If you've been in that lifestyle for any amount of time, I can guarantee you've had some pain. You've been there. You've done that. You've felt hopeless and abandoned and empty and used. And I don't know what your addiction might be, but whatever it is, it's going to tell you that the next time will be different. Or if things go wrong, it's always there to try and welcome you back. But even though it says, "Oh, it's going to be good this time's going to be better, this is going to fulfill you," deep down that it's just a lie. But the good news is you can change things. You don't have to believe that lie anymore. I don't care if you've been on this path of destruction for 30 years. Right now is a new time. Right now, you can just say, screw this. I'm tired of this. I'm going to start a new path. I'm going to go on this new path. And yeah, maybe you've done some really bad things. Maybe you've done some really horrendous things that you're not proud of. And there may be some consequences to those actions. But here's something very powerful. Who you were doesn't dictate or determine who you are or who you will be. Okay? Let that sink in. Who you were, the things you've done, that does not determine who you are or who you will be. Okay? So, you've done some bad things that you're not proud of? Okay. What are you going to do now to show that that's the old you, that that person is no more? What are you going to do today? Okay? There can be things, yeah, we've all done bad things, but who are you now? What are you going to do now? And yes, people may judge you, but here's the thing. People are going to judge you no matter what the heck you do. Look at friggin' Tim Tebow. He's like the best person you can imagine. People hate Tim Tebow. And it's like people hate to see somebody that can actually be a good person. He's just some wholesome guy. So, people may judge me based on this video, but you know what? So what? Screw it. It's not about them. It's about people that need help. People can think what they want. They're going to think what they want anyway, and there's nothing you can control or do about it. So whatever, let it go. Don't worry about things that you can't control. Look at the things that you can control, and that is how you see yourself and the actions that you take. And I know it may seem impossible. It may seem like, well, you're too far gone. You've screwed up too much. You're beyond saving, beyond changing. We've heard this before. And I'm going to tell you that's all just a friggin' lie. If you catch yourself with hearing these things or those thoughts in your head, just, those are echoes of the past. Just, well, thanks for sharing, but that's the old me. I'm a new person now. Excuse me. So, one thing I would highly recommend if you're going through this is seeking some sort of higher power to help you with this. Now, for me, that's Jesus Christ. For you, it can be something else. But speaking for myself, I know I don't have the strength to do a whole lot on my own. And it's necessary to tap into something greater than me, because I'm nothing special, to actually do something. And just to give you an example that kind of hopefully ties all this together, to just show you that it's never too late to make a change. In the Bible, it's talking about how Jesus was crucified, and he's nailed to a cross. Crucifixion was one of the worst possible ways to die. It probably still is the worst way to die. And it was reserved only for like the worst of the worst criminals. And when Jesus was crucified, there were two such criminals crucified next to him. And so here's Jesus. He's already been abandoned, spit on, beaten, bruised, bloodied, whipped, and the soldiers are mocking him, and his friends have abandoned him. He's got all this group of religious people and these thieves, or these criminals on both sides of him, and they're all talking smack. It's like he's going through enough already, and then he's got to deal with all these people. And they're saying, well, if you're really the Son of God, then come down here and come down and save yourself. And in the midst of all this, Jesus kept his cool. He kept his composure. He didn't reply to their insults with insults. And instead, he actually prayed for these people. He said, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. I mean, people tend to often view Jesus like this weakling, but it takes a bigger man to keep your mouth shut than it does to retort back and fly off the handle. So anyway, how he handled this must have impacted one of those criminals, because one of the criminals looks at the other one and he says, we deserve to die for the crimes we've committed. He goes, this guy's done nothing wrong. And then he looks to Jesus and he says, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. And what was Jesus' response to this guy? Did he say, you dirty criminal, no way I'm going to remember you? He didn't say, you've been too bad, you've done too many bad things, there's no way I can help you. He didn't say it's too late. No, he didn't say any of that. Instead, he says, I assure you, today you will be with me in paradise. Despite all the crap this guy had done, all the pain he had caused, all the destruction, despite it all, Jesus gave him his assurance that everything was going to be okay. So, talk about saying the right thing to the right dude at the right time, I mean, this guy was like the very last second, and he did the right, the best thing you could possibly do. So, you can put your faith in whatever you wish, but for me, it was a transcendental moment when I took all of my crap, all the things that had tormented me, all the hurt I caused, all the stuff I'd screwed up, and I realized I'm a mess. And I don't know how to get out of this. I don't have the ability to get out of this on my own. And I just gave it all to Jesus. And man, that decision transformed my life as well and my future. So, my faith doesn't require me to be this perfect person or some wonderful person, because, I mean, I'm serious. I screw up a lot. I frustrate myself with how much I screw up. But I don't have to have all the answers. I mean, I still run away from God sometimes, and I don't know why I do. So, if I say I'm not perfect, that's a big understatement. I'm way not perfect. And that's not what Christianity is about. It's what a lot of people think it's about. It's not about me trying to walk this line and do the right thing so that God doesn't get mad at me. That's a lie. It's about God so loved the world so much that he gave his only son so that the world could be saved through him. I love a lot of people, but I don't know of any people that I would lay my child's life down for to save them. And Jesus, he came into the world not to judge the world, but to save it through the sacrifice that he gave. And that's a huge love. It's a love you can't even fathom. And that's my source for hope, encouragement, and love. That's the biggest source of hope, encouragement, and love that I've found. And that's what I try to tap into when I do these videos. And I just pretend there's like just me and you in this room. And maybe I'm sorry if you've been hurt by Christian people. I have too. I've turned to atheism in my past, but it's unfortunate. Sometimes Christian people actually turn people away from the gospel of what they're supposed to be drawing people to. So I'm not going to say Jesus is going to wave some magic wand and everything's going to be peachy keen, but by just accepting him as your Lord and Savior, that makes you perfect in God's eyes. That saves you. And that can give you the strength to do the things you may not think that you have the strength to do. So if you're not sure how to go about the whole process, it's very simple. I mean, you can do it right where you're at right now. You can pause this and do it. It doesn't have to be this big production. You don't have to worry about saying the right words, or you just kind of start talking to God like he's right there in the room with you. Confess, realize you're not perfect. You can tell God the things you've done, or you can just kind of lump it all together. It's just a heart-to-heart moment where you're realizing, I've got all this crap that I need to get rid of, and I don't know how to get rid of it. Just talk to God like he's this loving father. And maybe you're like me, you didn't have a loving father or any father growing up, so it makes it a bit of a challenge. But you just pray. You just, ask God to forgive you of all the things you've done. You say that you believe Jesus was the Son of God and that he lived this perfect life, and then he was beaten, crucified, and he died to take the punishment for us. And then God rose him from the dead. So he's a living God. He's not buried and dead. But because of the price that he paid, you're asking for forgiveness through that sacrifice. And it's pretty basic. I mean, you don't have to get all caught up and say this magic phrase or anything. It's a heart-to-heart moment. I mean, you look at the thief on the cross who just said, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. And that was good enough, okay? So just open your heart. Ask God to come inside and start to clean you up, and you can start this new life. And you'll experience something that you've never felt before. No drug can compare. And the weight of all the things that you're carrying around with you, they can be lifted, and you can become a totally new person. It's pretty freaking amazing, I must say. And then you've got God with you all the time, and you just talk with him like he's your best friend. And if you've gone through this process after this video, I would love for you to email me. Do me a favor and email me at myhealproject, myhealproject @gmail.com, and tell me about it. Or if you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'd love to know that this is getting through to somebody. And if you've given your heart to the Lord in the past and you've gone astray, hey man, you can turn back. Read the story of the prodigal son. It's in Luke chapter 15. Pay particular attention to the father's response when the kid returns. And I'm not going to go into this because that's one of my favorite stories, and I'm sure I'm going to use this on one of the other episodes, but do that. So if you've got some type of addiction you're struggling with, I hope this episode gives you a new perspective, empowers you a bit to change your life. I'm so thankful that God spoke to me in that pivotal moment of my life, and because I did go down a new path. It wasn't always easy, there's still some problems, but I know that I'm better off than if I would have stayed on the path I was on. And I'm here sharing the exact same message that I heard with you, and you know where that path leads, and it never leads to fulfillment. So I found a new way. If you'll follow me down this path, I'll do my best to encourage you and give you some of the tools that I've found that have helped me along the way and helped me to this new life, and it's worth it. So, hey, thanks for watching. I just pray massive blessings on you. I just hope that you feel hopeful, encouraged, and loved just because you're you. And you were created specifically by God to do some amazing things. And I'm just happy if you're watching this and I get to be a part of your story. So have a wonderful time. God bless, and talk to you soon. Cheers.